This instructional video is for those of you who wish to make your gluten-free breads at home using the Tru-Dough gluten-free cottage bread mix. Some of the varieties that you can make include your typical sandwich loaves, rolls, buns, baguettes, freestanding Viennas and bloomers. Most of this information, of course, is included in the brochure that you get when you buy the bread mix, but it's also included in our website. But today you'll pick up some extra hints and tips. These breads are actually easier to make than wheat breads because they simply require a mix, a shape, a single rise and then a bake. But because they are made from a true dough, which gives you a true bread, there are some important rules that you must not break if you're going to be successful with your baking. What we mean by a true bread is that it is yeast raised and it is formed from a flexible dough rather than a batter. Rule number 1, make sure you are using a top grade yeast. Now we recommend using the dry active type because this stores really well. If you keep it in your freezer, it'll keep for up to 12 months, or in your fridge about 6 months. It's rock hard to begin with, but once you let the air in, of course, it goes loose and dry and you can spoon it very easily. Even when frozen, your dry active yeast will stay loose and flexible, and you can spoon it straight from your container straight into your mix. Beware of old yeasts that have been sitting in your cupboard for several months, and sometimes even from supermarkets and shops they're somewhat out of date, so fresh is best. These vacuum packed yeasts also keep much better on your shelf than the foil sachet ones or the ones that come in cardboard tubes. Okay, so rule number 1 is using a good quality yeast. Rule number 2 is making sure that you measure your ingredients accurately. We recommend using electronic digital scales because you never then have to guess the amounts either for your liquids or for your flours. Water measures the same in grams as it does in mils, and that's a real advantage with your digital scales. Now, we use digital scales to make sure that we're getting accurate measurements. If you get the right amount of moisture in the dough, you'll get a nice, flexible, workable dough. If your dough is too dry because your measuring's inaccurate, then your dough will be quite tight and it'll struggle to rise. If you over measure your water and the dough is too wet, it'll be quite sticky, and while it will rise very high, it'll eventually pull holes and be a very open texture. Right, now the third rule is warmth. If you can keep your dough warm during the rising process, it should triple its bulk or its size within an hour and then kick up even higher during the oven bake. If your dough gets cool during the rising process, the yeast simply goes to sleep and won't rise at all. So where do we find a good spot to rise our bread? What we recommend is that you use your normal household oven. Simply turn your oven on flat out and leave it there, but just for 3 minutes. Any longer and it'll get too hot, but 3 minutes should just then give you a lovely ambient warmth for your bread. So turn it off after 3 minutes, and that's a great spot to rise your bread. If you have one of those old ovens that seems to cool down very quickly, then just come back about every 15 minutes or so and give the oven another burst of heat for about a minute. Now don't walk away while that minute is warming the oven again. If you do, you'll forget it, it'll kill the yeast and may even melt the cloth over the top of your dough. If you remember these 3 rules then, a good yeast, accurate measuring and warmth to rise your dough, you'll surprise and delight your family with the varieties of breads that you can make.